Hi, this is Shadow Child and you're watching Future Music on YouTube, and I'm going to go through today a remix that I've done of my track Friday, which is done with Takura. We're in a different studio setup. If you've seen my Dave Spoon videos before, you'll notice this is a bit different. So yeah, so that's where we are today. There's a little bit of a story behind this, which I'll tell you as we go. But basically this was done, the original of Friday was done in Reason and Logic. I did it on a train. It was sort of inspired by an old house track as well. And it just existed as an instrumental for ages. And then the opportunity came to work with Takura, and I just sent it to him to see if he liked it. And the next day we had a song. So if you know the song Friday, then this is an alternative take that I've also done on that, because I wanted something that fitted with my DJ sets a little bit more, because the original of Friday, you know, it's a great record and I'm very proud of it, but it's harder to play alongside the other records I play when I'm DJing. So I needed another version, and this is where this came in. Basically what I'd done was started a version of a track by Origin Unknown. That's how it's more widely known anyway, called Valley of the Shadows. A lot of people will know this. It's got this famous old sample in it which sounds like this. So those bells have become very famous through that record, but they actually came from Future Music CD 1, which was 1992. 1992, there you go. Which I remember buying it. I was at school at the time, and my school had loads of great kit in it, which is where I learnt to do what I do. And Future Music was a brand new thing then, and this amazing sample CD came with it. And these bells were on there in amongst loads of other amazing samples. So if you hunt around online, you may be able to find it. But basically that's where Andy C, as Origin Unknown, got the sample from as well. And I just realised, like I said, look, it was the same key as the track Friday that I'd done. And it would all kind of fit together. So rather than use the bells in the way that you just heard them, which is the way it was done by Origin Unknown, I've kind of cut them up. Oops, sorry, still playing the original as well, which is what the Rex player does. There we go. So I've cut it up. I also took the dry part of the sample. On the original sample you had loads of reverb, and then towards the end of the sample the reverb came off and it was very, very dry. So if I just go back to that bit and I just take off, there's a little bit of delay which is coming from Logic. But so I stuck my own reverb on, which is good because that means I've got the control over the reverb rather than it just being part of the sample. So that's how that started. And then the drums and stuff, just kind of cut them up. There's some Dr. Rex loops in there and stuff like that. I build all my drums in Reason on often more than one device. This one's got quite a bit on. Let's just play. So that would have been the first drum pattern that I wrote to go with this, which it doesn't sound like anymore. Because basically once I drop this drum pattern down into Reason, I go in and edit and separate stuff, so the arrangement becomes a bit easier. So the kick is kind of isolated. Sorry, I'm not showing that very well. The kick, you can see there, the kick is isolated. The clap is also isolated, and the hi-hats and stuff. If I move on to the next section of the track over here, which I will do in a moment, you'll see, you'll hear it in a moment, sorry. You'll see that there's more percussion and stuff that comes in. I've used, what is that, Rex loop? Literally, this is the original. It's a really nice loop actually, but stripped loads of it away. You know, I always do my own thing with samples, you know. There you go. So literally that's all I've used there. There's a bit more of it a bit later on in the track there again, as you can see. So that was the intro and stuff. On the version that didn't have the Friday parts in it, basically the bells that I was just talking about carry on and kind of open right up, and classic sort of drop, which I do into a bass line. All that was kept, but obviously the bells had to come out there, and I had to do something different, and I had to use the stems, which were from Friday. So kind of remixing your own stuff's a bit weird, but quite rewarding in this case anyway. I hope you think so as well. I added some pads and stuff. I wasn't entirely sure about this to start with, but it had to have the essence of the original track in there somewhere other than just the vocal. So these are the pads that I put in. So kind of using quite 90s sounding pad sounds and stuff. I'm using Omnisphere for this. I don't think there's any Shadow Child tracks that I haven't used Omnisphere in, to be really honest with you. It's so inspiring every time for me, for all sorts of reasons, not just pads but basses and just anything. I can always find at least more than 2-3 sounds per track that are coming from Omnisphere. And I've got the extra, there's the Bob Moog Banks, and there's if you've got Trillion, which is the bass module that Spectrasonics do, that also opens up some other patches in Omnisphere as well. But I honestly don't think, I'll just show you quickly, I honestly don't think I would ever get through. This is the top of all the patches on this list here. I don't think, I'm scrolling down now, that I'll ever get through all of them. And the good thing is with it as well, if you're just working on a track and you find a sound you like, but you might not use in a track, like iTunes, I guess you can favourite stuff. So even though there's just so many presets on there, I can see the things I've favourited and go, right, I'll see what that's about. So I can highly recommend Omnisphere. Giving away all the secrets today. So there you go. Very 90s, early 90s kind of pads that you would hear on a drum and bass record or something like that. Omnisphere is great for those kind of things. What I have done is mix them together. I think they're bussed together on one channel, yeah. And I've automated that with some of the Fab filter on there, the Simplon, which is a great filter. So it didn't come in and was really weighty, there's a lot of low end on the pads and things like that, and I wanted them to kind of just float in. Those bells you can hear are also from Omnisphere. Then you can hear the Takura vocal as well. So it's almost like a bit of a sandwich dish. You've got the sort of it's like a triple decker sandwich. You've got the original, like the track that I had before. You've got this bit with the pads and Takura. Then you go back to a bit more like of the tracky bit with the bass line. And then there's another breakdown with Takura, and then the end of the track. Like my analogies, don't you? I just let it sort of drop in. There we go, quite sort of stripped back. I'll play some more of it in a moment. And it just builds, again, with the writing of the bass line. I think there was like 4 or 5 different ones. The original one I did when I first started the track with Eats, it was completely different bass sound, different bass line. In fact, that's the thing I just took out of the view there. So I wrote this new bass line, which is actually down here, not where I just thought it was. Very sampley. Don't know what I've made it out of there. Let's have a look. It is 2 samples layered together, and I've also got this layer which you wouldn't associate with being obviously a bass sound, but I've layered it with that other bass you just heard, and it gives that. Just gives an extra little edge to it, I guess. It's a little bit boring. A little bit boring like that, I guess. Just let it play through a bit. So again, more percussion layered in. I usually use more redrums than this. I layer all the different kind of sections of drums, so kick and clap together, hats and whatever. I do it all separately. I think just the nature of the way this one came about, a lot of backwards and forwards, and there we go. And then there's a little teaser with those sort of bells coming in again as well. And those were just cut up. If I zoom into that one, you can see how it's been cut up. If you haven't seen Recycle Loops or the Dr. X player or anything before, it splits all the hits up for you and puts it into a device where you can basically play all the notes how you want to, and that works on the keys as well. So that's basically just been reprogrammed in the roll there, piano roll. It's all sandwiches today. And then we go back into more of the vocal and pads and stuff. The bit where it goes off again, change the bass line a little bit. Goes sort of right, steps down a bit further this time. So that's kind of the workings of the track. And then if I go back into here and bring up the mixer, you can see how I've brought some of that in through Rewire into Logic and mixed it. So basically my drums come in all on one channel, and they go through to from Reason, and they mix with any other drums that I might put in Logic as well, and I put them on like their own bus channel. There we go, the drum bus, there we go. Some EQ on there, also a limiter as well. The UAD stuff is brilliant with all of that. I've got a lot of their stuff, but I find it's really great to get your head around like 3 or 4 things that you know really, really well, just to get that result, because you can spend hours messing around, even if it's just with presets or whatever. It's just good to know that whatever sound you've got in your mind, you can just kind of get it out there, get it done. EQ on there on the drums. Oh, the kick's not coming through here actually, the kick's going through on its own channel. I had a few issues with the kick drum, with it clashing with the bass a little bit. So I did that. Normally the kick would just come through on the main. So basically sometimes with kick drums and bass lines, particularly nice low subby bass lines, it's not good to have a subby kick drum. So an 808 kick drum and a sine wave bass, forget about it. Unless you're putting, 90% sort of side chain onto the bass against the kick. So when the kick hits, the bass is dipping. You might get away with it if you're very clever and stuff with it to get it right. So yeah, everything mixes from Reason through Rewire into Logic and stuff. There's quite a lot of things that I've separated here as well. Let's just move it on to this section. So there's the bass coming in without that little layer on there. And that is, I've only just started using this. This is the Ocean Way Studios, which gives you like a room kind of ambience or whatever. It can be used as a kind of a reverb or whatever, but it just kind of adds a bit of vibe to these drums because they were very dry without. If I solo those without that, just so like really boring and stuff. So like, it's so slight, but it makes such a big difference. that's that. I think on the vocals, because I'd done all the original processing and stuff myself anyway, I'm not sure what I did with it. Let's just have a little look. I need an intermission. You need an intervention. We need a cure like medicine. Yeah, Logic's tape delay. I mean, there's other tape delays which are great, but again, I know it pretty well now, although it looks really boring to look at. But it just gets the job done, and you can hear. There you go. You can hear it. There we go. Just simple, obviously, the automation to give that effect from the tape delay. And then, I mean, this track's obviously gone off to be mastered and make it sound, you know, proper alive. But this is what I had on it just for working with it. Again, I like to use the analyzer just from the EQ. I find it, for me, it just works, you know, just as well as the multimeter. But that's down to personal preference, really. There's other things you can use as well. And again, the precision maximizer, which comes with UAD, and that always just makes everything really fat, gives it a bit of life, a little bit more feel and sort of excitement to it while you're working. And that's how the refry, as it's called, of my track with Takura Friday came about. Hope that was useful for you.
I'm Sonnery James.
I'm Ryan Machano.
See us next week in the studio with future music.